what it looks like from the YouTube side.
Excuse me there. Hello, ladies and gents. We are live
Yeah, we are.
your TV. It doesn't. Scott, did you leave? There he is.
I left.
It's the Lindsay and Adam show this afternoon, and we are here to bless you with our presence. Maybe.
Yes, maybe.
We want to talk about pitfalls to avoid in the first few years of recovery, really. It could be applicable to any time in recovery, but especially the first few years, you know how we have to be extra careful of things that, as Adam explained, a pitfall, you fall in and you don't realize it. And I didn't even know that's what it was.
You don't see it. You don't know it's there. Then you fall into it.
See?
You definitely will realize you fell into it.
Oh, so when you fall, yeah. After you fall into. Okay, enough of that.
I'm trying to catch tigers and lions.
Yeah, but we're the lions.
Yeah.
Okay, so pitfalls in early recovery. There are so many. Let's where should we start? I want to do an overview first. So I had a couple years sober a couple times and relapsed, and I remember depression or a low mood being the source of a relapse. I mean, that might not have been the actual source, but it was a part of it, you know? I remember in the very beginning when I would get 30, 60 days and then drop the ball, I was going around people that were still drinking or old friends that I thought I could be around. I remember, I relapsed also because of men, not because of men, but because of I thought like I will never be able to date anybody ever again. I literally thought this because I'm awkward and uncomfortable and I need alcohol. So I might as well not even try. That literally happened in my mind. But so obviously, not everybody has those same ones, but people, places, and things, which is the one we have all heard of, I'm sure. It's very true, and I live by it. That's not to say that it's always going to be the same level of cautiousness for like places or things or whatever, right? Like sometimes it may be more of a trigger in the beginning, right?
So when you say people, places, and things, do you mean that because those specific people, places, and things were the triggers? Because
or they could be emotional triggers or a part of that old life and addiction, you know?
I used people, places, and things were never I never really considered them a trigger for me to drink because I didn't really drink that way. For me, they would be an excuse.
Yeah.
Because, I'm going to go to this, if I go over there, there's alcohol there. And in the back of my mind, somewhere I'm going, if I decide to, it's available. I can probably sneak it. But people, places, and things never had any effect over me as to whether I was craving a drink or I wanted to or had an emotional reaction to, because for some reason my drinking didn't happen like that.
Well, that's kind of exactly what I mean, because it's almost like I would trick myself, or I kind of knew, kind of didn't, you know, to where in early recovery is like, I can go there to like this concert or whatever at a bar. Like I'm there for a reason, right? You know, because that's what they teach you when you get sober, is like, if you have a good reason to go there at a bar or wherever where they're serving alcohol, you know, check your motives. And I'm like, well, my motives are blah, 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 blah. In the back of my head, I'm like, well, if it happens, and I'm going to pretend to ignore it. And maybe it happens. I did that a couple times. Yeah. But so that's mostly what I'm thinking of. Like, or the environment maybe is just like somewhere maybe
Yeah.
you got high at, and you're like, or an old, like a trap house, and you're like going there. You're like, I'm just gonna go hang out here and just chill now, sober. I'm gonna call and hang out with my old drug dealer. Those are the obvious ones, right? But I like how you brought that up of like it's like not even realized sometimes by ourselves.
Yeah.
And we were talking about cough syrup earlier. That's something, well, and someone else was talking about that in our in I don't know if it was our or my live stream yesterday. I think it was mine, about how there's alcohol in the NyQuil.
Yeah.
And,
Some of it is. Yeah.
yeah, and she didn't realize it until after, and she kind of felt like it might have been a relapse. And in my opinion, it's not because of our intentions, but still, I could see how that could be.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
That's that all or nothing thinking that
Mm-hmm.
we won't go down that road, but yeah, I agree. It's one thing to, I didn't know it was in there. I wasn't intending to do that, but I accidentally did. Well, once you did and you found out, did you throw it away? Yeah, then it's not a relapse.
I agree. I didn't
What
even check for this. Oh my gosh.
what got me more was the other things in the cough syrup. We talk about all the time. Stay away from the dextro,
Yeah.
which is just, I don't know if that's the cough suppressant or whatever it does, but it just knocks me out. Like,
Really?
it didn't knock me out, but I mean, I'm a space cadet. Like,
I can see that.
Feeling like,
You're funny.
yeah. So, but what I did notice is I remember being told about all those things at an IOP one time.
Really?
Like, okay, that's a good idea. I should probably stay away from that. And then I completely forgot about it. And 2 years or so later, I just got some Mucinex off the shelf because it's the middle of COVID and had some. And then, woo, boy, like 45 minutes later, I'm kind of like, I feel a little funny.
Yeah, that could invoke feelings of, I mean, you're kind of in a different state of mind, right?
Yeah.
Could trigger someone.
It definitely felt like having a few drinks. So
Yeah, that's scary. I definitely think that. But you know how they also say, like, don't go into a barbershop, or if you hang out in a barbershop long enough, you'll get your hair cut.
yeah.
And I'm like, that's so fucking stupid, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Like,
that's one that I can't identify with that one because, like, no.
like if I'm gonna go, that's just like if I'm gonna hang out with the same people that I was just like getting drugs with.
Yeah, I mean, I get
I'm
what,
a bit high, you know.
yeah, I get the sentiment behind it and the point, and it's just one of those ones I never could identify with. So
I want you to talk about emotions, because I feel like you would explain that really well. Like watching your emotions in early recovery. How do you do that? You know? Because I think that's a big thing that contributes to relapse.
For me, I was constantly watching them because I was trying to relearn them.
Oh yeah.
And like I mentioned before, alcohol allowed me, like, I don't want to say it made me feel more, but it allowed me easier access to expressing them.
Yeah.
And my biggest one for drinking, the hardest one for me to overcome was boredom. Because that probably was my biggest trigger outside of my marriage. But boredom, it's like boredom at my job, because I had access to kind of leave for a little while and come back. So I knew that, hey, I could go get a couple of little, weak mini bottles, like 20%, and I could drink those and nobody would know, especially if you had really strong cough drops.
Right.
So I used that as an excuse.
Yeah.
And
because I'm bored.
Yeah, because I was bored. Like I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
But after working with the CBT counselor for a while, finally kind of was like, so why are you doing that? And I was like, there's nothing else to do, and nothing else to do, huh?
True.
So yeah, I mean, my life at the time was very monotonous. The job was very monotonous, and not, you know, not a lot going on in it. Same thing over and over and over. Wasn't spending a lot of time with my daughter because I just didn't have a lot of time with her. Didn't really have any friends to hang out with because
Yeah.
hadn't really made any that weren't alcoholics. So yeah, boredom was a big one for me.
Damn. That's so true. I didn't even think of that. I remember there were times, like periods of time when no shit, there was more than just periods of time. This happened throughout the years where I would just start drinking at the house by myself, and I like
Yeah.
would be jamming, and then I'm like, drinking all day, I'll drink all night. I'm gonna go out now because I feel like socializing, and then
Yep.
get in trouble. But
Yep.
um it was
Absolutely.
like a way to be alone with myself, to have fun with myself because I didn't know how to enjoy my own company, and I was bored, and I was like, well, what do I do when I'm bored? I don't know. I don't even like myself. What am I supposed to do with myself? You
Yeah.
know?
Yep. Exactly right.
Jesus.
Exactly right. So
Yeah, I couldn't find any kind of pleasure or fun in normal living, like normal as in not with not drunk or high,
exactly.
you know? What else? Anger was huge.
Anger's one. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was explosive for years. Like 0 to 100. Like bro. And and I like to argue, but that brings me such a sense of like, physiologically it's like so intense that like I don't like getting up there. So I mean, it's been a few
Yeah.
years since I even got that high into anger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
I don't like it.
so I've said before that confrontation's always been a weak point of mine. And it's not so much because, at least it used to be, it was a weak point, not because I was afraid of confrontation, but it was because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to control myself after
Yeah.
it got to a certain point. Um, but now I'm not afraid of confrontation now either. And I don't want to say I embrace it, but when the need arises, I don't back away from it. But I still have those same physiological responses. Like my heart rate immediately jacks. I get flooded with adrenaline. And I'm like, it's like fight or flight. And it's no longer flight. Like it used to be flight because I was afraid of fight. And now it's like, all right, you're going to stand your ground here
Yeah.
and actually engage. So it's something that I have to learn, but yeah, that rush you're talking about is
Damn.
insane.
It's so true. Yeah, the confrontation thing, that is why I think I was fearful of it, because of not being able to control myself.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize that until you just said that, because it's so all or nothing. I would either be
Hmm.
passive aggressive, you know, that was my specialty too, or aggressive. I couldn't be assertive. I mean, I could have, but I didn't
Right.
know
Right.
how to yet. It took
Yeah.
me years, not until I worked with patients, clients, that were in addiction and that, pushed my buttons and to where I
Right.
had to make boundaries and it was uncomfortable. And I
Yeah.
realized that was my thing, was like making boundaries was difficult for me. And now I fucking love boundaries. Like
Yeah.
I'll boundary it up. Let's do it. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? Cut off, deuces. Um, but yeah, and I was not assertive. And it also scared me because I would hold things in, or like
Yeah.
I wouldn't know when I was gonna just boom
Yeah.
explode. So that was really important for me to work on that. And I mean, it took me a couple years, like I said, to really understand what that even was.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't even realize it. I thought like that was normal to do that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that just goes to show you right there that you can have years of sobriety and recovery if you don't actually start but trusting those issues and working on them, they just stay there.
Yeah.
You know, and you
Good.
might not necessarily be dry. You know, you're not a dry drunk. You're sober. You have an enjoyable life,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have the same emotional triggers.
Good
So
point.
that's where, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I think I'm at in my journey is, you know, that hashtag that gets used sometimes, beyond sober. I think that's kind of what I take it to mean. It's like we got sobriety down. I mean, I know I can't drink because as soon as I do, then everything's kind of out the window as far as where I'm at. But there's still more work to do. And it's work that probably everybody needs to do.
Yeah.
Just we tune into it more because we're trying to stay sober.
What do you think about stagnancy in that kind of regard, because for me, I feel like maybe that might have been something I experienced lately to where it's like things are going smooth and I think everything is
Yeah.
hunky dory, but then again I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
It's a weird sense of like blah, and I'm like, I don't know, I think that can cause us to get a little squirrely if, I have to be always like trying to better myself, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I
I
don't know how to
think,
explain it properly, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's like I'm not moving forward, so I'm kind of standing still, but standing still to me, I go backwards.
yeah, for
I can't
sure.
stay there,
For
you know?
sure. I think you can break it into at least two different categories. You know, you're, excuse me, you're stagnant in your recovery, your
Yeah.
sobriety work, or you're kind of stagnant in everything else in life.
Yeah,
And
true.
I think, I mean, this is all just kind of going with my gut feeling here. If I'm stagnant, you know, if I'm newly sober and I'm stagnant in the work that needs to be done to maintain my sobriety, I won't be sober for very long.
Right, right.
I think you get to a point though where you've kind of hit the crest of the hill and it flattens out for a long time, and you can cruise right there.
Yeah.
You know, you can enjoy life right there. And I don't think it necessarily is going to be negatively impacting your life. I don't think it's going to positively impact your life.
That
I
makes
do think with life, though, if you get to a point, if this is mine, this is me for sure. If I get to a point in life where I'm just cruising, you know, things are good. They're not great, amazing. They're not awful. That's where I will get into trouble. So I have to constantly, and I don't want to say I have to constantly be working, but I have projects or,
Yes.
self-development projects, or I have something that I want to accomplish that I'm always pushing towards doing.
Yeah.
Because if I don't and things are just stagnant, it's never a good thing for me.
That's exactly how I experience it. Exactly. And you touched on something though that I want to talk about more, and it's that there's a recovery stagnancy. It looks different, right, for someone depending on how they stay sober, right? Or
So,
I don't know how to word that to where what are the things that someone needs to do regularly to stay sober, and does it vary depending on how you got sober, how you stay sober, how you maintain your sobriety? What is the differences? I've talked about it before, but it's just so interesting to talk about because when I ask someone like, or when someone says like, I got to just keep doing these things every day. And it's like, well, what things? What do you got to, but they don't talk about it. So, I mean, I know what they're trying to say because that's what I would often hear over and over the years, And
um,
so,
so when somebody says, so to me, it goes to, I think there's two types of sobriety. And I've mentioned this a few times in the past. You've got kind of an internal esoteric sobriety, and you've got an external exoteric sobriety. And
mhm,
the easiest way to explain it is the Catholic Church is an exoteric way to God. You
Okay.
go through the church, through the priest, through the bishop, through the pope to get to God. And the spiritual community, or you can even go just say the Protestant community, says, no, you have a direct relationship with God.
Okay.
So I think depending on which way you go, one is very, very easy to get stagnant. And so let's just stop using fake labels. So if you have to constantly go through and do step work and go to meetings and call your sponsor to stay sober, to me, you are stagnant.
Okay.
Just because I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Hey, I'm 25 years sober. I go to meetings every day. I call my sponsor every day. I'm doing the steps all the time. I do 10, 11, or 9, was it? 10, 11, 12 all the time.
Right.
Which, there's an argument for 10, 11, 12. I like those. But
right.
It's anytime, when somebody says, I had this bad thought the other day. Oh, you probably need to work the steps again. Or, I'm having this resentment towards this person. You probably need to work the steps again.
Yeah. Do a 10 step, do this. Yeah.
So I made a comment to a guy that I'm acquaintances with on Twitter. I was like, hey, man, that thinking can be corrected. You don't have to have those thoughts. And his response was, if it goes away as soon as I have the thought, then, I consider that a win. I was like, yeah, what? But if you're having the thought that, and we'll just say that alcohol is an option for you. Like if you even have that thought,
yeah,
it's okay that you have that thought. I mean, I'm not saying there's something wrong with that thought.
Right.
What I'm saying is when you have that thought and you say, I know that is bad and I should do this because I had that thought, you have done absolutely nothing to improve yourself and train yourself, correct yourself, reprogram yourself.
Yes.
And not have those thoughts. And to me, that's where the work is. That's where the continuous work is. It's going, hey, that's a thought. I haven't been down that path yet. Why am I having that thought? And
good fucking point.
So
good point.
That's that external versus that internal to me. It's like, hey, I had these bad thoughts. I need to go do over here. It's like, I'm going to say my Hail Marys and Our Fathers to repent.
Right.
As I had that bad thought. Why did I have that bad thought? Let's consider the facts here and let's go down and do the 5 whys and figure out where that thought's coming from. Oh, there's an underlying belief that is kind of triggering that. Or, it's just a random thought. We're humans. We have thoughts. They just happen based off of our beliefs, our experiences, our life.
Right.
I'm driving down the road the other day and just because for some reason it's all over the news feed right now, the theme song to DuckTales. Remember the cartoon DuckTales?
Yeah, but what was the song? Sing it.
Life is like a hurricane. Okay. I'm not going to put it in your head.
With the DuckTales.
Yeah. So, songs pop into your head. Why did that song pop into your head? Because it just did.
I have weird ass shit popping in my head.
Yeah, why did I have the thought that, I hate that bitch because she just cut me off in traffic? Because I just did. I don't need to go and meditate for 3 hours or do a bunch of step work or go and confess that because that's just a thought. Now, if I decide I'm going to take her out and do a pit maneuver and throw her into the side rail, that's a little different story. We have
a little extreme there, bud.
Right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's a good point though. So, the first thought wrong thing? I don't. This is something that I know we're not talking about it, but it just reminded me of it when someone said it the other day and it rubbed me really wrong. And I kind of got snappy, but the whole I can't trust myself. Don't go in your mind alone. It's a whatever place, a dangerous place. What else? Basically that we are different from other people. And that is the thinking that kept me prisoner of my own fucking cage, I believe, because I'm thinking well, I can't trust myself ever. And first thought wrong. And I need to run everything past somebody. I have to because I don't know how to think. I have a thinking problem. That's what they say over and
Right.
over and over. I have a
Yeah.
thinking problem. Well,
Yeah.
so like there's something wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it means. And but that's when that people say, oh, there it's a symptom. Drugs and alcohol aren't the problem. It's a symptom of us, and the thinking error is the problem. And it's like, no, like I believe that drugs and alcohol are just symptoms, but I don't believe it's
It's
because we're
not a,
fucking
it's
broken.
well, it's not a thinking error. That's like saying analogy. I mean, it's like saying, hey, my car doesn't start because the ignition switch isn't working. Maybe it's because there's no battery.
Oh shit.
So the thought's not the problem.
Yeah.
Thought's a step up the chain from the problem, which results in the addiction, the drinking, the drugs. So that's kind of like when I
Mhm.
talk about stagnation,
Yeah.
that when you're constantly trying to fix the thoughts, to me, a thought is if you're having the same recurring errant thoughts,
Mhm.
that's just a less obvious symptom.
But wait. So if I'm having the same reoccurring thoughts, we've talked about this before. Doesn't that mean that there's a belief hidden in there that may be distorted, or
Yeah,
what would you call it? Um,
distorted, or maybe it's not distorted.
just a
It's
belief.
it's a limiting belief.
Limiting belief. That's what it is. Yeah, I couldn't remember the word. So i- in the recovery that you're talking about, what did you say? Intrinsic? What did you
Yeah,
say?
internal.
Then
Internal.
that would be, to me, I would relate that with, uncovering what the source of
Yeah,
that thinking,
yeah.
even though thoughts aren't facts, but they could be indicating something,
It
right?
could be. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. When you learn to be mindful of your thoughts, you start to understand how you think.
Yeah.
And so then when something pops up that's like, where the fuck did that come from? It kind
Hmm.
of gives you pause and you can assess it and address it as you need to. It could just be some random thought.
Yeah.
I mean, that literally happens.
Yeah.
But it could be, ooh, there's something here. Like for me, if I have the thought that it's like, you know what? Damn drink would fix this right now. If I
Yeah.
have that thought, then I know that there's something's really going on.
Let's talk about
Something
that.
that I have hung up on something,
Mhm.
you know. So
I want to talk about that more. I want you to talk about it more. So
okay,
it brings us to this point of, so in early sobriety, I of course didn't know how to be sober yet, right? Like I'm learning, right? And I'm breaking the patterns, and my brain is like starting to make new pathways, et cetera, et cetera. We know that, right? But what happens when those thoughts, like you just described, of drinking would be a good idea, um, continues on and on and on for years? Like I've heard people say that, and I don't know how that would be. Like I don't know how I would stay drug and alcohol free if I had those thoughts years into recovery, or even 6 months into recovery,
yeah,
really. Not saying that anybody's not normal. I'm just saying I think that what I'm trying to get at is I think that we're not taught enough about getting to the root cause of why we use and
no,
drink,
absolutely not.
right?
Yeah,
It's just like, it doesn't matter why I mean, this is what I just remember hearing. And so I'm not dedicating it to any kind of
yeah,
program, but I just remember people saying, like, it doesn't matter why you're an alcoholic or addict. It just matters if you are or you aren't.
right.
Um, and I don't believe that kind of thinking now, because it's so black and white. Um, and I could dissect. We and you could be here all day, like breaking it all down, and I think we'd be correct. But you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
it's it's taboo to ask what is the root of your drug and alcohol problem. Why the
that's
fuck
true.
is that?
Well, and here's
It doesn't matter why, that you have to just not
well,
drink.
from a treatment standpoint,
Right.
right? From a treatment standpoint, You're trying to get the person not to use again.
Right.
And so the quickest way to get somebody not to use again is to give them something to do to not use, to replace not using.
Stop the bleeding immediately, right?
Bleeding,
That's what treatment should be. But then what do you do once the bleeding stops? We're not teaching. I don't think that we're teaching that enough, or it's not going the right. I don't know.
Well, and part of that is because of the state of addiction treatment in the country where we are.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, without going down the road of just picking apart everything that I find at fault with step work and AA,
right? Because
so when I've said this before, I think AA stumbled onto something. They didn't know what they stumbled onto because it does work for some people.
Yeah,
and I think that repeatedly, doing the steps, repeatedly working through getting rid of resentments is kind of a way of uncovering some of those underlying beliefs.
Right.
Because you constantly get rid of resentments and it's the same thing over and over and over. Through that repetition, you are actually reprogramming your subconscious to think differently. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to work because not everybody has the same underlying beliefs driving the thoughts.
Right.
You can have different underlying beliefs, which are going to trigger thoughts, which are going to trigger emotions, which is going to trigger you to perform an action, either to satisfy the thought or to counter the thought.
Right. Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to throw this in real quick. Is my issue is when it's presented as the only thing that you need to get sober and stay sober is just this. You don't need therapy. I mean, and I don't know. Someone might not need therapy. I don't fucking know, right?
Yeah.
But everybody, I think, like you said, we're all different. And if the thing is too, I was thinking about this the other day. The whole argument of this is a solution that everybody should follow. It's our common solution. If you're an alcoholic or if you're a drug addict, you follow this laid out solution and it works. And if not, it's your problem, right? But what happens? But if you're not, then the whole thing falls apart. But really, what is an alcoholic and what is, if you don't believe that premise, which I no longer do, then what you know what I mean? Like, so then I think it's individualized. And the thing is too, is like, I think everybody should have their own opinion on this. And I got sober 12 steps, right?
Yeah.
Like I was so committed to working that shit, doing everything, sharing that way with others, telling people they weren't doing it right, because I felt like I stumbled upon the answer.
Yeah.
Which it was an answer for me at the time, right? My problem was in the kind of thinking that jammed me up of not being open to learning more, because it didn't keep, how do I explain it? Like, my recovery needed more than that. And so, and then I was struggling and I'm like, what? I thought that, just do this harder or just do that. And it's like, why isn't it working? Or it was like God's answer. And it's like, I know, and that's great. But man, like, especially look at trauma. Like, that's that's just one little example of something that needs its own specialized treatment. Like, I won't even treat trauma, like, as a counselor. A regular therapist doesn't usually touch extreme trauma. Like, you need a trauma specialist. So just little things like that started to be like, I don't know, man.
So something that I have recently kind of really changed my mind on, and I guess my belief on, is I used to hear people say that everybody experienced childhood trauma. I was like, bullshit. No, not everybody did.
Right.
But as a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old, let's say, perfect example. if you're a 5-year-old, you're coming up, dad just got home from work, and you're over there, you're like, daddy, 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 and he either tells you, go play, doesn't give you any attention, or just completely ignores you.
Yep.
Eventually, you learn not to go and try to play with your dad.
Yep.
And that is traumatic to a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old.
Yeah, because it's attachment. It's attachment disorder.
And so that can easily manifest as an adult of either some type of rejection issue. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy, capable of being loved.
Yeah.
Which can then really just fuck up a ton of thoughts. And if you're constantly acting on thoughts, that can easily lead you right to where we are.
Yeah.
Where we were.
Right.
So the childhood trauma thing, like I was like, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense.
It does, doesn't it? I know. I did the same exact thing because I was like, I wasn't beat when I was young. I wasn't molested. Yeah. And so I was like, I had like the picture perfect childhood. And then it's like, but then I heard people saying, it's like, well, it's not what happened to you. It's what maybe didn't happen for you. And it doesn't have to be a big T trauma of like a significant event that changes the course of your life. It can be little T trauma, which is, maybe in attachment disorders. I was reading a book called Addiction is an Attachment Disorder. And there's some good points in there. I need to finish it. But it's basically saying like, that's what addiction is like.
Well, I mean, we've said this before, the God-shaped hole.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a God-shaped hole. It's your childhood trauma-shaped hole.
Yeah.
It's whatever you did, whatever that childhood trauma is, drugs and alcohol make you feel better about.
Yeah.
For a little bit of time, and then it wears off, and then you need more, and you need more, and you need more.
Right. You know what? I mean, so many things that just used to make so much sense to me because, it sounded good because that's what I heard over the years and I had perfected it to where it made sense based on an accumulation of everything I'd heard over the years and all the videos and speakers I listened to. I concluded that this was how it all worked because I was going to know for sure. I was so interested in finding out. I want to know the truth. And so that came with me. I'm talking about just 12-step truth. I didn't know that there was a recovery really outside of that. I thought they were full of shit. I thought people really didn't get sober outside of AA. I thought if they did, they wouldn't last or they're not happy. I don't even know that I believe in a dry drunk now. I don't know. I don't know what that would really be. You know what I mean? Like maybe someone that's not bettering themselves. I don't know. Are you muted? Yeah. Silly goose.
And I thought the red light meant muted. Apparently not a red light means muted.
We learn every day.
That's right. I think if you are constantly craving to use, but you're just white knuckling and willing yourself through it, I would call that dry drunk.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense with that. Yeah, I was thinking of like irritable and
but if the fact that I'm not using and I'm not doing step work or talking to a sponsor makes me a dry drunk, then
right. but really, so what? But okay, so then let's talk about see what I like talking about with you all the time is like we are saying it in universal terms, not just specified for if you have this 12-step mind and believe every premise of that is the beginning and the truth, right? Because I want to start from an organic place, like how we're, just fucking reality, right?
So I wrote something the other day about principles versus methods.
Okay.
And, whys versus hows.
Explain.
Well, I mean, so I've said it a few times. I think AA hit on a few things and they don't really know that they have.
Right.
So I think there are common universal principles to sobriety and recovery. Principles are few, methods are many. Principles hardly change, methods often do.
True.
So that actually I said that quote backwards, but whatever.
No, but I know you mean.
Yeah. So I think the common universal principles are, obviously stopping. You've got to stop putting it in. Some community connection.
Yep.
And then it's healing the thought process, healing the emotional wounds.
Seeking help.
Seeking help, yeah.
Wherever that comes from, some kind of spiritual.
I think spirituality definitely helps.
Yeah.
When I say spirituality, I mean it in the definition of spirituality is my journey, my quest, my search for meaning for myself in this existence.
And my values. I think that is kind
Value,
of,
for sure.
because a lot of, I mean, you don't have to believe in God or anything to get sober or a higher power. I mean, that's not what I believe, right? I believe, okay, I have spiritual values such as love. like I want my thoughts directed towards all things love and trust and all these things that I want to embody. And that kind of does it for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's like, we've talked before, like words have meaning.
Yeah.
And so the words you use, especially with your own self-talk, build a container that you operate from or from within. And certain words are going to build you a very limited container. So your world is going to be crammed and packed into these limits.
Damn.
Or you can use different words and build a very vast, expansive container that allows freedom and, non-limiting.
Right. But that's so freaking important because
yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's so much that just realizing that that I didn't know period, actually, and that these people weren't liars that were telling me that they got sober on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, there's studies that say like that is the most common type of recovery is sudden what's it called? We talk about it all the time. What is it called? Sudden I can never remember the damn word.
Sudden.
I'll get the study. I have it saved. It's like really, it's like 60% of people or something. And so what I had always known or learned, my belief was
spontaneous remission.
Yes. Yeah, it's not remission. I think it might be remission. It's spontaneous recovery, I think. No, it might be remission. You're right. Exactly. So what does that mean? That means like they just fucking stop.
Well, and so from the surface level, they just fucking stopped.
Yeah.
Possibly something happened that caused them to suddenly change a limiting belief.
True.
For me, that's what happened.
Yep.
With
you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I not at all. What are we talking about here? Why do I keep doing this? And when we found that belief of it's okay for me to do it as long as I don't get caught, I was like, son of a bitch.
I like you when you talk about that because I bet you a lot of people have that same exact belief.
Yeah, I mean, so, I didn't find that on my own. I definitely had help doing it, but there's no reason why I could not have found that on my own.
True.
So, I mean, with spiritual work, with shadow work, with, just going inside and doing what I've been talking about with analyzing thoughts, eventually you'll stumble across it. Kind of the same way, eventually AA will reprogram your subconscious through consistently getting rid of resentments.
Yep. Well,
I want to talk about moral failings, but
that's why I believe everything that came with that because it's over and over.
Right. So I think the resentment part is helpful. Moral failing thing, I see where you're going with it. I like it from a personal development. I want to be a better person standpoint, but from an addiction, alcoholism standpoint, it really doesn't fit.
Not their own model. It doesn't fit the own model.
Exactly.
I don't understand.
Yeah. So, to become a better person, yeah, absolutely. To quit using, I don't believe it fits. So I haven't seen a valid argument as to why that steps in there.
Well,
I know why it steps in there. Excuse me. but I've not seen a valid argument as to why that step is important. Just
What
stop it.
about, well, and then also like remove your shortcomings, right? And then apologize. That means that you have something wrong with you and that's why you're
Well,
drinking.
and
You did
I
bad
think I
stuff.
think the apologizing, trying to make amends is healthy
Yeah, I like that.
in finding, it allows you to offload some baggage.
Yeah.
Because making amends is not really about the other person. It's about you. It's about you saying, "Hey, I understand that my behavior impacted your life very negatively, and I want to make this better for you."
Mm-hmm.
And so, just by admitting that out loud, there's going to be an immediate switch in your thought process.
Right. Well, it for me kind of put me on a level of like not not the same level as them, not that I was thinking of in that way, more along the lines of like I'm not under someone, I don't owe them anything, I don't have this guilt or shame in me anymore because I'm making it right or trying to make it right.
Yeah.
I guess more on like even grounds, right? Like I don't want to be under anybody.
Blank slate.
Yeah,
I don't
clean
know.
slate.
Yeah.
And
So I think it's very helpful.
and humility. Yeah, me too. I just think I think it's supplemental. It can be supplemental for me. I didn't really realize that
Well, and
there's so much more.
it's also kind of taming the ego as well, because the ego does not want to do
True.
that.
Yeah.
The ego does not want to do that.
My problem is only with, no, I can't say that either. I was going to say it's only with people putting others down for not getting sober a certain way. I really just, it always comes back to this for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like a personal problem of mine. It's just so, I don't know. It's so weird, you know?
I agree. I agree.
Can't we all get along?
All you need is love. Love is
Yeah.
all you need.
Well,
So going back to early pitfalls, thinking of ego. So, and this just came to me while I was driving earlier today. Um, Learning to tame the ego, because we often make our decisions from the ego. The ego's making the decisions.
yeah.
The ego wants what it wants.
Yeah.
All right. So, and
Are
I've
you
mentioned
tagging me?
this, I've mentioned this either on here or to you and Scott, but
Yeah.
if you look at every decision, especially in early sobriety, if you look at every decision from the viewpoint of, does this get me what I want, or does this make me right? The ego wants to be right.
Yeah.
Right. So if this is you're doing this just to be right, probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
But if it's getting you what you want, like what you truly want, I'm not saying, does this allow me to do something I shouldn't be doing, but does this advance me towards my end goals? Does this give me what I want, what I truly want?
Not manipulative wants.
Yeah.
Right. Damn. That's so true. Yeah. I mean, the ego, mine was really just like, hey, everybody, I'm coming through. Like, I know what's up. I know
Yeah.
how to do this thing.
Yeah.
And you don't. And,
Yeah.
you know, and then, you know, soon enough, I'm getting high again. Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't really, that leaves me no room for exploration and betterment. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I can't,
Yeah.
there's no need. If I know everything, I'm not going to do that.
That's right.
I'm going to be stagnant.
Yeah, that's
You know?
right. Yeah, we're back to that. Yep,
For
exactly.
real. Yeah, there was something else you said too that I really liked. I don't remember. But when you said that, you know, when you were like alone with yourself, it was like, you know, you kind of believed like, was it when you're alone with yourself? Like, oh, I won't get caught or something. And that's why I'm gonna, like, how was that? Nobody will know.
Yeah, yeah. As long as I don't get caught, it's okay.
What do you say for people that like have limiting beliefs like that and don't realize it? Like,
So what I mean, just the discovering that that was there
Yeah.
was just a huge shift. But what I did was every time I kind of had that thought, I just countered it with that doesn't get me what I want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as I don't get caught, then it's okay. It's
Right.
very much the ego wanting to be right. I mean, we're going to
Ooh.
together. I don't know that it's necessarily the ego that instilled that belief, but that belief is part of the programming that the ego uses.
Okay. Yeah.
So by getting rid of that belief, the ego can't use that, especially if I continue to counter that belief with that doesn't get me what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, that doesn't get me what I want becomes the default operating procedure, the default mode network, if we want to use the actual psychological term. So now the ego, and I'm making this up right now, but I would assume
Do it.
the ego is got to work from that belief.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
changing the programming, I mean,
Then it can't. Yeah. Then it's
and
non-existent.
just from a personal observation of my life, I would say that the majority of the time, that is how I operate. It's very, very seldom that I have to stop and go, does that really give me what I want? Which lately it's been with sugar. I'm like, I really want to eat that donut. Does that get you what you want? Like, no, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna eat it anyway.
Damn right. Well, and then speaking of ego too, it's like I realized just when we were talking about something the other day, which I won't bring up here, but to where it's like, what is like driving me right now? Like what is this pain festering on? Like what is driving me to seek out whatever it is, right? It's like my ego is wounded or something and it's seeking something, but
Yeah.
it's not really the true self, right?
Yeah, I would say that's exactly spot on.
Yeah. And
There's a
it, but then if I say take the ego out of it and I drop it, like it doesn't hurt. It's
that the ego wants maybe not necessarily to be right in this case, but the ego wants to be validated,
yep.
wants vindication.
Yeah. Cause that's ego.
You've wronged me. I want it made right.
Right. Yeah. All that shit.
And so that's, yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, well, just, drop it. It's
I
easy to
know.
say,
I know.
completely different.
Totally easy. No, it's just, I can do it in a second and then feel it go away. And then I'm like, oh, back again.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to do this work. But also another thing I wanted to,
That's the mindfulness. So it's
yeah.
if you get to where that is just how you operate and it pops up, you go, nope, go back away.
Yeah.
Pops up, you go, I see you, not now. Pops up, nope.
That's what I've been doing a lot lately.
Yeah, I mean that, and I told this story a bunch of times, but that's literally I did this easily 3 to 4 times a week for a solid year, probably 14, 15 months. Before I go to work, I'd go to the gym, I'd work out, and then I go sit in the sauna for 45 minutes and just put on some type of meditative music or listen to something, just and let my thoughts go. And I would just literally, like, I used it a couple nights ago, here's a thought, pick it up, move it over there, pick it, move it over there. So,
Well,
learn to recognize them.
I know we're getting in deep late into time. Do you have time to keep talking or no?
Yeah, sure. I got a few more minutes.
When do you have to leave? You have to leave in a little bit?
No, maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Okay. No, I wanted to talk about what we were talking about earlier of figuring out what drives your specific drinking or using for anybody that's watching that can kind of try to figure it out for themselves, right? So I wanted to talk more about that. How
to find that belief.
Yeah, or just to figure out like because we all use, I believe, for a reason.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. No, I don't buy. I used to believe it was we use because we're addicts. That doesn't make sense to me now. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's not a real definition. Like you can't. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
well, we drink because I'm an alcoholic and that's what we do. And I used to repeat that all the time. And that does not cut it for me anymore.
That right there, that phrase drives me nuts. You can't define your,
Right.
it's like defining the word with the word.
Yeah. That's what
Oh,
it
why do you
is.
drink? Because I'm an alcoholic. Well, why are you an alcoholic? Because I drink.
Yeah.
No,
And I can't not. It's
no,
like,
being an alcoholic means you continue to drink despite negative circumstances,
yep.
and you can't stop. Excuse me.
Well, if you even care to define the word alcoholic, because is it a medical term? No.
Not really.
I mean, what you know what I mean though? Like
It's not
without
in.
getting too
It's not
deep,
going to be in any type of MD physician's reference desk book.
it
It isn't
comes
a
from one
DSM.
place.
Well, it's in the yeah, it does come from one place.
Mhm.
It was in the DSM-3. They took it out of the DSM-4, and it's no longer. It's not in the DSM-5 either. So,
Mhm.
alcohol use disorder is the definition. Alcoholic comes from the 20s and the 30s.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Well, and
think,
it's just kind of lingered around, right? And outside of those circles to,
yeah,
well, what is it really, what entails someone to be an alcoholic or not? If
yeah,
you're not in the fellowship, you don't know what the real definition is.
yeah.
If there is one, right? So I don't know where I was going with that, but I was going to along the lines of like how important. I just really want to stress this, that like until I figured out that I'm not just drinking because I'm an alcoholic and I drink when it rains and I drink when it's sunny because I'm just a fucking alcoholic and that's what I do.
Yeah, because that's what. Yeah, that was.
That's not sufficient for me. Like
Yeah,
that's not, because then the answer is what? It's just like a band-aid. Like I don't want to put a band-aid on it. I want to
yeah,
know the source. And I
exactly,
don't think I can have long-term recovery if I don't know the source.
exactly,
So
exactly.
that's what I really, really, I really want to like stress it more. Like we should do a whole nother video on that.
And that's that question right there is one of many reasons why I went my own route,
Yeah.
because I asked those questions and I got the answer. Well, because you're an alcoholic.
Yeah. Well,
If
what?
you could stop, you wouldn't be an alcoholic. I was like, well, no shit.
That's why you're an alcoholic, because you can't stop.
I was
So
like,
it's
but
like it goes further and further.
yeah, you would be like, but I wasn't an alcoholic when I first started drinking.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, you just didn't know it.
Yeah. That's one of two answers I would get. But
Yeah,
to think that I would defend that line of thinking and reasoning and I would tell other people that and be like, how the fuck don't you know that? Like, whoa, like that's something that's a strong kind of
and
program.
we don't use that type of logic, that type of thinking anywhere else in the world, in life, in
No.
anything. There's always, from an accident standpoint, there's a root cause analysis. Well, let's go find out why X happened so we can prevent it from happening again by addressing the why.
It's like taboo. It was like taboo. I just remember when I was getting sober and I kept saying, but why do I need to find out why I keep doing this. And they're like, sweetheart, you keep doing it because look here, you keep doing it because that's what you do. And you need something that's a spiritual solution is the only solution. And I'm like, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, but why do I do it? They're like, there is no reason that you do it. It's because you're an alcoholic. And I'm like,
Yeah,
fuck you, man. But
yeah,
but that's what I try to say when I'm saying like I could explain shit like so
yeah.
fluently and like it makes so much sense, right? If you don't know that it doesn't make sense.
I think everybody has something that will cause an abnormal amount of dopamine to spike.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everybody has something.
There, yeah. Well, I mean, what, how the fuck would you be a person? Like, what do you do if not?
Yeah, that just happens to
You're
be
just like
alcohol.
a fucking, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of
I mean,
animal.
that's why I went on the quest. I mean, I think everybody's got something that will cause an abnormal spike, and then it's through different studies and sample sizes, they found that roughly half of addicts have less dopamine receptors. So now you're already behind the curve. You know, you're like,
Lovely.
so I've got less receptors, which means even something that just kind of spikes dopamine is going to make me want more of it. Yeah, that's what it means.
Yeah, there's a definite scientific reason.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
can't discount it.
Fixing the physiological is easy. We just remove the substance.
Right.
You know.
Right. But so the reason that Adam and I talk about these things is because we want to normalize being able to talk about these things without getting attacked or told we're going to kill someone, or if we don't fully accept that there is one way and only one way, we're going to get, like the mobsters are going to come fucking kill me. I'm serious. That's like how I felt. I felt like, oh my God, I'm not part of the group.
Right.
And I wanted to belong so bad. So
yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of it. Everybody, I mean, that's human instinct.
Yeah.
You know, back thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago, if you weren't part of the tribe, you were going to be
dead.
Have no access to fire and food and water and shelter and protection from the elements. So we still have that. We still have that hardwired into us.
It's crazy. But so the reason I say that is because I know, and we say it every single time, because we want people to not be afraid to talk about these things and to say, hey, that doesn't really make sense to me, or for fear of retaliation from the mob. I don't fucking know. Which it sounds crazy, but it's real. We've I've been attacked. It's kind of the thing of like, well, how dare you even question something? It's almost like a religion. And I don't like that, because you can question other people, but no one can question you. It's not like this mystical thing. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't explain it. But so I just don't want people to be scared to like maybe ask questions, because it could be dangerous if someone doesn't seek something that works for them because they think that this is the only way. And Tom, Dick, and Jerry, or whatever the fuck, are sitting over there saying like, this is what you have to do, and this is the only way, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, that's scary. And we don't know. We just want to be sober and accepted. And
just like the kind of the common catchphrase from people with decades of sobriety is, it works if you work it, or, well, it's my observation, it worked for me.
Oh,
well, mine
good. No, it doesn't. That's what they say. No, it doesn't.
It's like, no, you'll relapse.
That's like literally what we've been told. That's outrageous to me. So I mean, are we practicing spiritual?
Are you spiritually fit?
Are we practicing these in all of our affairs? I don't know. Not to knock anybody, but let's not be afraid to talk about these things and what works and what doesn't for us as individuals, because we might need something extra or something different than is available. I don't believe there is one size fits all anymore.
No, I don't think so.
I just don't. So, yeah. Any last thoughts?
No, not really.
Nice.
We did a bunch there.
We did all right. Yeah. Well, let's talk soon. Have fun tonight.
Alrighty. See ya.
All right, dude. Bye.
Bye.